Hello and welcome to episode 42, Generations Apart. I'm Robbie.
And I'm Jay.
And on today's episode, we're having a look at the concept of right to repair. We'll be looking for a few developments over the years, from Apple to tractors to the McDonald's Ice Cream Machine. Before we get into that, though, Jay, what's new with you this week?
So I am falling back deep into the VR rabbit hole at the moment, Robbie. With the launch of the Quest 3, I'm fascinated by how interested everybody is in mixed reality. And to the point where a couple of my friends are now looking at the idea of buying a Quest 3. And my brain is seriously contemplating it, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to hold out for the Vision Pro.
Hold out for Apple.
And it's the Vision Pro I wanted to talk to you about, actually. So I came across an article last week that I wanted to talk about, which is kind of two pointers to it, so we'll keep them brief. Both about the Apple Vision Pro headset. And the first one is around Apple's intention for the device, which actually, interestingly, they're looking at as a solution or a tool to support in the diagnosis and the treatment of mental health problems. So they're looking at this headset as more than an entertainment device. The article doesn't really go into detail as to exactly how they're going to do this, but we've talked before about how VR could be used to help people suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder and other issues like that. And it seems that Apple, with their sort of strong focus on health in recent years, is very much looking at the Vision Pro headset as a tool for that, which would be very interesting because at the kind of level that they're pitching this price-wise, it would make it. It's the sort of device, I suppose, that you could imagine medical, organizations buying into and spending money on and using, in treatment centers. So that was the first thing that I wanted to touch on. And perhaps the second more interesting bit is coming onto the price point is that there is rumor that Apple's also working on a cheaper version of the Vision Pro. Now that's probably not a massive surprise. Although it's probably, to me, it's slightly disappointing or slightly worrying in terms of their vision for the device. So Bloomberg's Mark Gurman has reported that Apple are working on a cheaper Vision Pro headset.
The Gurman sermon.
And it says the features like the external display and eyesight feature might be removed in the cheaper version. In addition to this, instead of the Mac level processor, Apple might use a processor similar to the one used in an iPhone. Which would also probably mean a reduction in things like resolution, fewer camera sensors, etc. Interestingly, you're thinking, well, that sounds like a lot to take away. That's probably going to bring that down to a much more competitive price alongside the Quest 3, which I think is somewhere in the region of £450 to £500 in the UK right now. Apparently, it's still going to be $2,500. So it's only knocking I say only, it's knocking $1,000 off the price, but it's still 5 times more expensive than the Quest 3.
That's cool.
So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. Personally, if I'm going to spend £2,500 on a headset, I'd probably want to spend £3,500 on a headset and have all the bells and whistles. Yeah, because once you get into those sort of realms, I know £1,000 or $1,000 is a lot of money, but you're already spending 2.5. You might as well go for the full experience and have all the power and the processing. But all of these reports and the way that the Quest 3 has been received now have me very nervous about the Vision Pro, because for me, I knew if I was going to buy one of these at $3,500, it was going to be, there was a risk there that as the early adopter, I was going to be, my device would be replaced and upgraded very quickly in a year or two's time, much like they did with the iPad and other devices since. Apple Watch is another example where the first version was very quickly retired and version 2 became the bedrock for a number of years. So there's part of me that worries about that. With the Quest 3 doing so well, which is great from a consumer point of view, because it's going to force Apple's hand a little bit when it comes to cost. But if what that forces them to do is to strip away all the stuff that made this innovative, I don't know how I feel about that. Because it feels like they've got this vision, but they're looking at the market and going, well, to achieve that vision, we've got to charge this crazy money and the market won't pay it. So we're going to reduce our vision, strip it back, and entice people in that way. To me, that feels a little bit like what Xbox did all those years ago with the Kinect. They had a vision for Xboxes coming with the Kinect device, and it was going to be hands-free, speak to your device, lots of physical interactivity with your console and your games. They had this vision for this kind of remoteless future where everything was integrated, and then it didn't go down well with the consumers. The price was a little bit too high, so they took the Kinect away and just killed everything that made that concept innovative. Now, a lot of people will say that was the right thing to do with the Xbox, by the way.
Yeah.
But I guess my point is I would worry about what this will do to the Apple Vision Pro market, because it's still really expensive at $2,500.
Very expensive.
And if you're going to drop money on one or the other and you're not sure, you're probably going to go for the cheaper one, which means then those fancy features are almost permanently removed. They're never coming back.
Yeah.
Because why would you put them back into the device in the future if you inflated the costs?
They'd vote with their wallet,
that's what
right?
I wanted to throw. Yeah, exactly. And I think had the Quest 3 not come out and been as well received as it has, and we talked about all the kind of issues with what that's done to the Pro, and the slight feeling of being ripped off if you bought a Quest Pro. But still, they've now got this, by all accounts, very good mixed reality headset that people are really enjoying for a still reasonable price.
Yeah.
And you're going up against Apple, which is either going to be 5 times or 7 times as expensive.
I know.
To get into, if the rumors are true.
Yeah.
Obviously, these haven't been confirmed.
Yeah, it's a pretty stark comparison between the two. They're going to be heavily scrutinized on the device itself, given the price difference between that and the Meta Quest 3. And yeah, I've heard really good things about the Meta Quest 3 as well, and I've been tempted myself. I've got the plug-in Oculus Rift, which now seems like it could be fully wireless, but obsolete based on some of the games that you can play on the new headset. So.
Well, I've been watching as well, because I know that there's a lot of people will tether their devices to PC, and you still get the PC gaming, the PC quality experience. There's also virtual desktop, which by all accounts works incredibly well for an almost lossless experience, where you can stream from your PC to the Quest 3 or the Quest 2 for a relatively small fee for that app.
Yeah.
And everyone said that it's really good.
Right.
So you could go fully wireless PC VR through the Quest 3 and have all the benefits of the mixed reality headset and all that good stuff. I think you've got to try it to see how it feels, and I must admit I've not had a chance to put one on. I'd like to, although that worries me that if I really liked it, I don't want to buy one.
I know what you buy one there and then.
Pro. Yeah, I don't like the Quest Pro. Just slightly aside, while we're on the Meta subject, and not to deviate too much, I also had a chance to try on just this week the Meta Ray-Bans.
Oh, right. Nice. The new ones.
I didn't get to use them in sort of the tech way. It was in a sunglasses outlet, and they had them on display. But I wanted to try them. I think I mentioned to you before I would buy them, I had to see if they'd fit my big head.
Do they fit?
Unfortunately, they do fit, but they don't look great, because they look like a lot of sunglasses tend to. They look a little bit lost on my rather large head. So I won't be buying them, even with the clear lenses, to be used as sort of glasses alternatives, because they just don't look that great on my head. But I will say, form factor wise, they don't look radically different to their non-tech enabled counterparts.
Yeah.
So, they're slightly chunkier on the frames, but not by much. So I think they're sort of a passable set of sunglasses or glasses that most people probably wouldn't notice or think too much of. And like I said, if they've been slightly larger on my face, I may well have bought some there and then, just because I was feeling a little bit stupid. But I didn't.
Did you get to try any of the audio or anything?
No, I didn't. To be honest, as soon as I put them on and realised they didn't look great on my face, that was my kind of walk away point, and I was like, nope, I don't want to know how much fun they might be, because they don't look right on my head. I'm going to walk away.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what's new with me. I thought that was really interesting.
The mental health stuff I think is really interesting. I wonder how they'll actually implement that. It could be anywhere from meditation apps to virtual counseling. You can imagine having someone that is sat in the room with you virtually through the kind of mixed reality headset.
Well, I think the Headspace thing's a really interesting idea, because I know they work very closely with the Headspace app team. Yeah. I've tried that in the past. I mean, honestly, meditation hasn't really done it for me, so I've since cancelled that subscription. But I could imagine how much more immersive that could be if not only you could be teleported, you're audibly, you're kind of in this environment, but actually if you could put the headset on and be transported to somewhere tranquil and peaceful, and when you open your eyes, you are, you're on a beach, you're in a field, you're wherever you might be. I could imagine that being, really immersive and helpful. for kind of separation from the world around you. But
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see. It's not the first time, as you said, we've talked about VR as a sort of mental health treatment. So I guess we'll wait and see where that goes.
Yeah.
What's new with you, mate?
What's new with me? So I have got a tech purchase that I was going to share with you. And I know I've mentioned this a couple of times recently, but I wanted to wait for it to be delivered for the tech purchase. It's not something I can show on camera, unfortunately, because it's quite large. But a bit of background on me. I recently changed jobs, and as part of that, I need to get to the train station on Mondays to travel to Manchester. And I've had a bit of bad experience with that recently, using taxis where they've cancelled on me last minute at stupid o'clock in the morning. And she just kind of left stranded. And then even in some cases, I had to wake up Christina to give me a lift to the train station, which she was not pleased about. So I've been looking for a more sustainable way of getting to the train station on a morning without having to rely on taxis. And so what I found after, a couple of weeks of debating whether to get a new car to drive to Manchester, whether to get a motorbike to ride to the station, which would be horrible in winter. Not that this is going to be much better. I ultimately landed on getting an electric bike. But not just any electric bike. I went for a foldable mountain bike, and this is it brought up on screen at the moment. It's called an Engwe. Was it the E-Pro, I believe? And it's quite an expensive bike. It is quite a big purchase, but the thinking is that I'm going to save an awful lot more in taxis, and also it's quite a sustainable way of moving around. So it's a foldable kind of mountain bike, and the photos here don't really do it justice. It's very large. It's very, very large, and even when it's folded, it's not actually that small. So it's in my living room at the moment. I'm yet to actually go out on a ride on it, but I watched tons of reviews. I'm really excited to give it a go. It's got a kind of full throttle version where you just put down the throttle and it will just kind of whisk you away, or you can do pedal assist as well, where it kind of gives you a bit of a push along as you're riding the bike. But the idea is I would use this on a morning to get to the train station, either lock it up on the train station where they have specialised bike parking and locking stations, or I would bring it on the train with me to Manchester and then even hop on the other side to get to the office from there and park it at the office. So that's my kind of extravagant tech purchase recently, and it's tech because it's an e-bike. But also it's quite a neat way of traveling around. So
I like it. I made a less tech-enabled purchase a number of years ago, pre-COVID actually, in order to shortcut parts of my commute to the train station. I have a lot less distance to travel, I imagine, than you. I was looking at about 1.5 miles, which used to take me about 25 to 30 minutes to walk. But it always meant it's all added time to your commute. So I bought from a company called Swifty Scooters, a foldable commuter scooter.
Oh, okay.
Which was great, except for I never got to use it for that commute because I literally bought it the January that we then went into lockdown in February. So I've never used it to commute. And then, to be honest, just because the way the job's changed and stuff, I don't go into my main office as much as I used to. I now tend to travel on trains and in the car to other locations more frequently. So I don't get to use it for that purpose. And if I'm honest, the lack of electric means that as much as I enjoy the idea of the sort of physical side of the scooter, I wish I'd got something that was electric. So I think that's a really cool purchase that you've got. I really like it. I've never heard of Engwe.
It's a Chinese make. I did a lot of research actually and watched a ton of reviews. It's not one of these makes that you would find in the average bike shop. It is like an import company. They're actually, I guess, much cheaper than you would find in the competition, I suppose, in this space. But I was so convinced by the reviews and what people said about it online that, I just went for it. Although I'm now just realizing, super annoying. I bought it probably about a week and a half ago, and they've just knocked off about £150 on the price.
I did notice there was an enticing offer of 2% off for new customers, which tickled me.
Yeah, so this was £50 off this offer. So it was $13.50 down to $12.99, but now it's $1,149. So they've knocked off another 150 from the offer that I got.
Plus, isn't 2% now better than £50?
Quick maths, maybe. No, that would be what, like 20, 30
Is that what it is? 20, 30 quid? Yeah. Oh, my quick maths wasn't good enough. Well, either way, it doesn't matter, does it? You've made your purchase, you know this is always the way,
yes,
it's
yeah.
always going to happen. But
I went for the black color as well, stealthy black, and it's got some amazingly cool features. So the top speed is 28 miles an hour, which actually I'm surprised at, because that's like, if you're going to buy like a 50cc moped to zip around town, that's kind of the same speeds you get out of that. The range is supposedly 120 kilometers, which I think works out about 70-something miles. But I think that's like absolute perfect conditions. Most people online have been getting like 30 miles, which even then is still absolutely fine for me. That's like 6 trips to the train station and back.
So how far have you got? How far is your commute then?
It's about 3 miles to the station. About 3 miles.
No, that's not too bad then, is it really?
Yeah. So
it's an unreasonable walk, probably, isn't it? It's an hour's walk.
It's over an hour. Yeah, probably about an hour's walk. And it's quite
really feasible.
Quite a dark track that I would walk down as well. So it's got built-in lights, and it's got sensors as well, so I can tell when it's dark enough to turn on the lights and things like that. It's got quite a cool display that tells you your speed as you're going along. There's a sport mode, which gives you a little bit more power to get up those hills. So yeah,
God forbid you have to use your legs.
Yeah, I know. It does feel a bit cheeky, but the other reason I went for electric is I'm going to be getting there before work, and I don't want to be super hot and sweaty on the train, or have to get a change of clothes and stuff like that.
Completely with you. That was part of the thing. Part of the reason why I didn't initially commit to my scooter was when I bought it was because I felt like I was cheating myself out of exercise by not doing the walk.
Yeah.
And the reason I didn't go electric was because I felt that was even more of a cheat.
Yeah.
But again, pre-COVID, I was 3 or 4 stone heavier than I am now and trying to lose some of it. Whereas now I've managed to incorporate walking into my day in other ways. So I actually don't think it would have been the end of the world. And I still may revisit some sort of electric scooter for convenience. But like I said, I have I have half the commute that you do. So
yeah.
But yeah, great. I think it's great. I think I'm keen to know how it goes.
Yeah.
And I think we need to revisit this. Maybe we should do an episode all about your experience of it, maybe in a month or so's time, once you've had a chance to properly use it.
Yeah, good idea.
And revisit the tech. We'll see how your battery life went. Has it delivered? What's it like in the cold? Because you've got it at probably the worst time of the year in terms of optimal weather conditions for riding.
Yep.
So I guess you'll get to try it out at its worst and then look forward to
lovely
summer mornings in the sunshine. Whereas you'll be doing everything in the dark and the cold. So that's probably where you'll find the worst, I guess, battery life, because batteries don't like the cold, do they? So
no, extra slip and things like that. The other reason I went for a folding bike is it's really, really difficult to get a bike that fits me. So I'm 6'5", and finding bikes that fit me is very, very difficult. I've got a bike at the moment that I got through like a cycle to work scheme, and it wasn't a cheap bike neither. And even that doesn't quite fit me. It needs to be a little bit taller. But the good thing about folding bikes is that they're made for every possible height, and they're super easily adjustable as well. So Christina could have a ride on it at one point, and I'll just knock down the seat and the handlebars, and then I could hop on straight after and just bring everything back up. It's quite a tall bike, I'd say. So it recommends I think 5'2" to 6'6" is the ranges of heights, which is quite a big range.
Well, that'll do for most people.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we should definitely dig into that more. Let's have a whole episode on that, Robbie, in a month or so when you had a chance to properly use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's exciting. And a big purchase.
Yeah. Cool. So, on to today's topic. So, we're talking about the right to repair. Do you know much about this before I kind of go into it?
Only what we have briefly touched on, I guess, in recent months, but not. We have not really got into any detail, have we? We've just kind of thrown around the name, and I've got the gist of it. But no, I'm interested. When you suggested this as a topic, I think I said to you, well, this will be all on you because I know nothing about it. So I'm very much here to be educated, along with anybody else listening who perhaps doesn't understand what this is either. So yeah, looking forward to finding out.
Okay, cool. So I guess that the concept of right to repair is just asking the question: do you fully own the devices that you buy? Or should the company have a degree of control over whatever you purchase? So that degree of control could be things like requiring you to use certain tools or certain software to fix the device if anything breaks, or even requiring you to go directly to the company to fix it and have no other options. Should the companies that you buy these devices from have the right to be able to kind of stop you doing that and ask the question, do you fully own your device? Do you actually have control over what you purchase? And this has been like a bit of a booming topic over the internet over the last couple of years in particular, especially around, there's a few YouTubers who do kind of repairs, service repairs on, say, Apple devices or other mobile devices. And they've kind of spoken out about the difficulties they've had with certain companies around this and needing to be, part of partnering programs that are very expensive to join and not really useful for the kind of smaller outfitted tech repair shops and stuff like that. But the first example that I saw of this was a story I saw a few years ago about a company called John Deere. Do you know much about tractors?
No. That will shock you, I'm sure.
Sure.
My tractor knowledge is very, very limited.
Sure.
I'd know one if I saw one, but other than that, no.
So John Deere is a tractor company, I believe, based in the US. And they're quite flashy tractors, as tractors could be, in that they have a front display, like you would have in a car as well, where you'd have maybe some information about the device itself, or some kind of text stuff that you can change within there. I don't fully know the details about what you're able to do on that device. So John Deere, they were criticized heavily because they prohibited farmers from being able to tinker with their devices and stop them being able to fix the devices themselves, the actual front-up display, without approaching them, without using their very expensive services to use their software to fix it. So over years and years, they campaigned, the farmers campaigned to make them available and to be able to fix them themselves, make the software that they need to fix it themselves available to the farmers. And it led to many stories of farmers actually hacking these devices themselves and then getting quite aggressive letters, I believe, from John Deere, or basically told that they weren't allowed to do it. And it brought up that question, do they actually own the tractors, or is a lot of it really owned by John Deere? Should they have the control to be able to force farmers to use their services to fix things? So I guess put that question to you just really quickly. What do you think of that as like a story generally?
It's very interesting, isn't it? And as I'm hearing you describe it, and I know that this is not quite the same in terms of right to repair, but it's got me thinking about modern cars. And I'm going to use Tesla as an example, but I know they're not the only ones, where you're buying a car from Tesla, but then there are features, capabilities that the car has, which are locked to you unless you subscribe or pay additional fees. So I think there's like a turbo mode or something on the Tesla. I'm not clued up enough on the detail, but I know there are specific modes and speeds and things that you can achieve in a Tesla that can only be achieved if you pay a certain premium to effectively software unlock that capability in the car, which seems really weird to me, because you've bought this hardware that has the ability to do something that you're then not allowed to do unless you pay the firm you bought it off additional subscription fees to unlock. And I know this isn't quite the same in terms of the repair piece, but I guess it's a similar thing, isn't it? You can't mess with your device, or you can't do something that we're not prescribing unless you pay us specifically additional money. And I guess in the world of kind of subscription services and subscription models, and even in gaming with these long sort of service games, the actual product isn't the thing you buy outright anymore, or at least as far as the company's concerned, it's everything they can sell you that beyond that makes them more money and makes them more profitable. And it obviously that seems to have made its way into the tractor world in the form of repairing your own tractors, because I suppose if they can lock you into a service and repair program with them, it's guaranteed additional revenue for John Deere, isn't it?
Exactly.
Rather than you going somewhere else. And it's always been the way, isn't it, that if you take your vehicle or your device to the manufacturer, it's usually more expensive than if you go to, some sort of high street, third party, your local phone king, or phones, not phones for you. That was actually a mobile phone seller, wasn't it, back in the day? But, these kind of one-man bands with a shop on your high street that will repair your phone for you at a fraction of what, Apple or Samsung might charge you. the same principle, I suppose, with your car, isn't it? If you took your car, even for an MOT or a service, to the garage that that's attributed to your car make, VW, etc., you're going to pay a much bigger premium than if you take it to your local engineer.
Yeah,
who will use third party parts, etc. So
it's a
I
good
can
point.
understand it.
Because that's becoming like increasingly a thing, right? Because I've been to mechanics who have told me that I need to go to the specific garage after they fixed as much as they could there, and that they needed some special equipment or some special computer to be able to diagnose it, or something that would be specific to that manufacturer. So that is definitely becoming a thing. But I suppose,
I think cars are much harder to repair now, aren't they, for your average mechanic, because so much of the cars now are controlled by software.
Yeah,
and it's and like you say, sensors, etc. Whereas I guess cars back in the day were much more mechanical. They were replace this part, replace that part. Now so much of the data that you need is locked into those boxes, isn't it? Within the car, you need special devices to read them, and in some instances, you need special, as you say, specific ones from your manufacturer to be able to access them, read certain error codes, reset certain error codes, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that's just the way it's going to go, though, as cars continue to become more software and electrical based and less, I guess, proper hardware.
Yeah, I suppose the only challenge to that compared to this situation is that at least you have the option, right? So any mechanic could upskill on the electronics of a car to fix that, or buy the very expensive, I imagine, computers that needed to diagnose this stuff.
Well, that's the thing, is that the cost is just being passed on, though, because the likelihood is, in order for them to get the software to diagnose your car, they're probably having to pay someone a premium.
Yeah.
So, Mercedes or BMW or whoever are probably passing that charge on to the mechanic, rather than onto the user. And I guess in this instance, it's difficult for tractor drivers, isn't it? Because I buy a car and I use it for social commuting, and I don't really use it for work per se. It's not my business, it's a leisure device. Whereas, so the business, I guess, that the people that are doing business and making money off these devices are the mechanics in that model. Whereas in this instance with the tractors, the tractor manufacturer sells the tractor to a business who's then making money and running a commercial organization, I guess, around what they're using that tractor for. It's not likely that you're buying a tractor just because you like tootling around a field on a tractor.
Yeah.
You're presumably doing a job with it. So I guess I guess the reason I say that is business costs are always more, aren't they? Anything that's aimed at consumers always comes at a reduced cost compared to what that same service might be charged to a corporation. It always blew my mind, how much, say, Microsoft licenses are for corporations versus what it costs me as a consumer to back in the day to go and buy a copy of Microsoft Office or Windows, versus what an organization has to pay to license the same tool. So I don't know. Anyway, we go slightly off topic. I guess to summarize, tractor bad, John Deere bad is how I would summarize that story.
Yeah, and so the ultimate conclusion of it was earlier this year or later last year, I believe, actually. John Deere signed some kind of memorandum after the agricultural group was lobbying for the ability to be able to fix their own devices. They signed this memorandum committing to provide customers with the tools and unlock the software to be able to fix it themselves. So they have committed to that. There's still a few criticisms here and there on how they've done it, but at least it's a step in the right direction. So in this instance, the farmers won against John Deere, and so I guess we were on the right side of it, thinking that it was bad for John Deere to be able to stop their users being able to fix the device.
I think, anywhere where a big corporation's trying to squeeze the little guys unnecessarily,
Well, keep that in mind when we get to the Apple, because I know how defensive you can get.
Hey, look, you're prejudging me based on my fanboyism.
Okay, cool. So I've got another example. And I was going to bring this up a while ago, actually, on kind of what's new this week. But then I thought we would turn it into a wide episode around the right to repair. And this is the cliche of the McDonald's ice cream machines being broken. So everyone knows that it's become like a bit of a meme online now that the McDonald's ice cream machine is pretty much always broken. But it turns out that there might actually be a reason for that. So McDonald's have
isn't it the milkshake? It's milkshake, not ice cream, isn't it?
Both. It's all in one.
Oh, okay. It's all in one.
Well, I think it might be two separate machines, but it's the same issue, basically. Right. Because McDonald's has an exclusive deal with a company called Taylor, who basically make the ice cream machines and milkshake machines for all of the McDonald's franchises. And actually, I had a little note in here. I used to work at Burger King for a very long time, and they look exactly the same as well. So I think it might be the same machines that they've got in Burger King, and probably other fast food restaurants as well. So Taylor has this exclusive agreement with McDonald's, and that they sell them their ice cream machines, but they also have the exclusive right to be able to fix these machines whenever they go down at a very, very expensive rate. So it's become like this weird story over time. So that the main issue with fixing these devices is that the error codes that the ice cream machines come up with are basically nonsensical. Without being trained or without having a special device to be able to translate these error codes, the average person will not be able to fix this device, even if you are experienced in fixing, other machinery that are part of the kitchen. So, interestingly, there was a company called Kitch who created this device that would plug into your ice cream machine. There must be some kind of USB connection or some connector in the ice cream machines that would let you translate these codes from the nonsensical garbage that it spits out on the little screen to something that actually you can work with to fix it. Maybe it just needs a rinse out or a heat cycle or whatever it needs to fix it. The Kitch device would tell you. In inventing these devices and then recommending that franchises use them, from the Kitch side at least, it's a Raspberry Pi device that plugs in. McDonald's had sent out a letter to all of their franchises. I believe this is in the States, but probably worldwide as well, saying that they're not allowed to use this device. They shouldn't use this device to fix their ice cream machines. And it's because Taylor is the only recommended company to fix these devices, and that they shouldn't take it upon themselves to fix it themselves. And that's, they've received a bit of criticism for that because, of course, it's because of this exclusive agreement with Taylor, and they have, potentially clauses that could be breached if their franchises started to fix things themselves. But also, on the right to repair argument, these are devices that break down quite frequently, and seemingly with no reason, and the error codes are so impossible to read that there's just no chance of even a quick fix for something that might be a minor issue. You always have to call out someone to fix it, which is just a nightmare. And just so you know as well, the pricing for these Taylor engineers that come out, in the article that I read, and I'll include in the notes, it reportedly charges $350 for 15 minutes of service. So very, very expensive to come out and fix the devices.
I find that story really, really confusing because McDonald's ice cream / milkshake machines have been famously useless for years, decades perhaps.
Yeah.
So if this is genuinely the problem, and McDonald's are getting shafted for that kind of cost every time one of them breaks across all their franchises across the globe, surely at some point the executives have sat down with this Taylor company and gone, guys, your machines need to be more reliable.
Yeah.
Or we need to be able to fix them. You need to give us, and then maybe this stuff is going on. We don't know, do we? A lot of speculation here, but it seems to me that if you're a corporation the size of McDonald's, a company like Taylor, and I appreciate replacing the devices would be a huge global effort and a massively expensive project. But equally, surely the cost of repairing these things as often as they have to be repaired would justify investigating that project. And I've got to imagine it if McDonald's sat down with Taylor and said, hey, look, we're probably going to look elsewhere. Taylor would perhaps be inclined to do something about it, because I've got to imagine for any company, a contract the size of McDonald's has got to be worth a huge sum of money to you and your organization. So that seems really strange to me.
Think of the scale of change, though. If you had to swap out all of the ice cream and milkshake devices.
I appreciate it's a massive job. But I guess my point is the cost of doing that within over however many years greater than the cost that they're spending on the repair bill? I don't know.
There's another argument to this, I suppose, that McDonald's might not be that worried about the cost, because the cost is borne by the franchisees. So the actual the people who franchise the buildings and the use of McDonald's. I want to say Microsoft. The use of McDonald's. The franchisees are upfronting these costs, and McDonald's will get
the people being affected are not the parties that are involved in the conversation or the negotiation.
I think that's right. I think that's right. So I think McDonald's head corporation, the franchisor, has the agreement with Taylor, and the franchisees are the ones who have to pay for the service costs to get the Taylor out. So that kind of balance of power is a bit weird as well. It's a bit not cool, which I think is why.
Yeah, that does feel a little bit dirty, doesn't it? When you've got big corporation paying big corporation for a lock-in deal that affects the profitability of the people that are running their organisations, that are running their brand.
Yeah. And that's possibly even another debate. It's right to repair the machines themselves. Do you have the right to use another company or be able to do it yourself? But should the franchisor have the right to kind of lock you into an agreement like this? They probably do have the right to do this, but whether it's fair or not, I think is probably up for debate.
It's all about, I guess their argument would be it's all about controlling quality, isn't it? Because if they ensure that machines are maintained in a certain way by a certain organisation, it means that the quality of the milkshakes, the ice cream, etc., will always be consistent.
But then, I mean, for the consistency of availability as well, you'd have thought quality is one thing, but to actually have them up and running is another thing.
Well,
right?
It's probably not affecting sales badly enough for them to care, is it?
True.
I guess that's probably the issue. This one's an interesting one because this feels, I don't know whether this is, my natural instinct here is I feel sorry for the franchisors, whatever the right word is. But I feel sorry for them, because they were locked into this, but I guess I can also understand why McDonald's may make that choice if quality is the argument. And reputation and their brand. There's probably a whole load of other guidelines that franchisors have to follow in order to produce. Well, they do. I know they do. Like they have to produce a burger in a certain way.
Yeah.
And in order to drive the consistency that we're used to, where you can go to almost any McDonald's in the world and get basically the same product. That's the only way you can achieve that, isn't it? Is by having strict rules around how things are done.
Very true.
So this probably falls into that. But as you say, it also feels a little bit dirty if there are ways and means that, especially with simple fixes, like you say, when you get an error code on your washing machine at home or something, you Google it and you go, oh, it's just a filter. And you change it. You don't have to call somebody out to fix it.
Yeah.
So the fact that they can't do that, although I would have thought in the world of the internet by now, there'd be some dodgy websites or somewhere you could punch a code in and it would tell you.
Well, that's
unless
what the
you
kitchen
can't get
devices
the
were
code
for.
out of the device.
That's what.
But that's hardware that's got to be plugged in. I assume when you say they're nonsensical, that the device doesn't report a code in any kind of meaningful way. That it's not saying on screen error code 1655.739.
I think that's the issue.
What does that even mean?
You need the actual hardware plugged in, because I think even what it displays doesn't make sense. Even if you punched it in somewhere, it would be inconsistent to what the actual issue is. So you need something that can actually use the sensors.
That feels a little bit dirty, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
And I guess to what extent can they tell if you use one of these third-party devices?
Yeah.
I suppose if there's any presence of it left in the software of the machine,
maybe
that then invalidates your warranty or gets you in trouble with your friend, with McDonald's. I suppose it's not worth the risk, is it?
Well, if they were really wanting to do to stop you doing it, they would put like software locks on the machine so that you wouldn't be able to plug in anything and actually get anything from the device, which is what we saw on the John Deere side of things. You were able to start tinkering with it, but there were software locks stopping you to be able to actually get any information or change anything as part of the device.
I'd be blown away though if they're not implementing that now, because I don't imagine this software, this device that Kitch have produced necessarily is just plug and play. Or if it was, the manufacturer probably wasn't expecting it, and now they're going, hang on.
Well, they weren't expecting it.
Maybe we should prevent that.
That's why
block that.
I imagine that it went, because as far as I can tell from the articles I read, it was quite a simple device. Just plug it in, it would give you the actual error and what you can do about it. But I don't think Taylor were expecting people to be able to kind of develop these devices. So Taylor leaned on McDonald's, I imagine, to stop their franchisees using it.
Well, it's probably a breach of contract for McDonald's. I was going to say Microsoft as well. Then. It's because I would imagine that somewhere in the conditions of the deal with them and Taylor, that Taylor have got the exclusivity rights on repair.
Yeah.
So if they get wind that that's not the case, then McDonald's have got a contractual obligation to tell their franchisees to not to use it, and then the franchisees or yours or whatever the right term is have also contractually obligated to follow McDonald's guidance and lead. So therefore, I guess it's one of those, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I can kind of understand this one a little bit more, even if I don't necessarily agree with the practice. This one doesn't feel quite as dirty as the John Deere one.
Yeah. Well, so the reason this story came about
arguably affects me worse as well, because I like a McDonald's milkshake. So.
Who doesn't? But so this came about because of the, ifixit, the company. They do like the tooling.
I have some ifixit tools.
Yeah, I think we chatted about this before, but they are big advocates in the right to repair space, as you can imagine, with selling the tools.
I was going to say, they want to sell these tools, so of course they are.
Yeah, but they also have.
What is it? What's in it for them? I wonder.
They also have guides on their website for certain devices on repairing certain things. So it's not just the actual tools to fix these things that they sell. They partner with companies to provide videos on actually fixing things. So for example, the Steam Deck, Valve is a big advocate for the right to repair as well. From the very start on ifixit, they partnered with them to sell parts for their Steam Deck. So all the way from the actual memory chips and other computer components inside to the sticks, the analog sticks that you can then go and replace yourself. And then they've got guides on there as well to guide you through how to actually replace it yourself as well. So they're big advocates in this space, and this is where the McDonald's Ice Cream Machine story kind of blew up this year, was because ifixit did a teardown of these ice cream machines in an effort to try and figure out how to fix it and how to maintain it yourself. And are also doing what they usually do, which is lobbying for campaigning for I think it's a copyright ability. Maybe that's a different story I'm mixing up. But they did this for the Xboxes, the tractors, and smartphones, where to get around this, ifixit, the non-profit public knowledge, filed an exemption to the law for ice cream machines, which is what they've done for Xboxes and things like that before. An exemption allowing people to get around their contracts that would prohibit them from being able to fix the devices themselves. So ifixit are a big advocate in this space, and they did this teardown video. I haven't watched it myself, but they talk through the components inside and also talk about the issue generally as part of the video, I believe. I
feel like you're warming me up here to hit me with the Apple story.
It's all one
in
track.
the hope that I'm going to say something. Yeah, I know what you're going. Shall we talk Apple?
We should. So ifixit again have been involved on the issues that Apple have had as well with their right to repair criticisms. So Apple, to be able to, and again, I don't know the intricate details about this, but we were talking before about repair shops, and like tech repair shops for repairing laptops and mobile phones and things like that. So to be able to repair Apple devices using their official tools and official parts, you have to be part of some kind of program to be able to do that. And from what I understand, I think that's quite an expensive thing for shops to do. So for the smaller independent shops and even individuals who want to repair things themselves, that is quite an expensive thing to be a part of, and it does make commercial sense for a lot of businesses. And so again, there's been lots of criticism online for things like that, especially independent kind of mobile phone repairer YouTube channels and things like that criticize this. So they were criticized over quite a period of time, and it's been an ongoing issue for a while. And Apple eventually released a right to repair program where they would give another program, I guess, that they would give people the ability to use their tools that you would need to repair specific devices, and also have easier access to official parts. Now they've done it in a very, very Apple way, in that it's not easy and it's not cheap. So there's this, and I think Marcus Brownlee a long time ago did a video on where he hired these tools from Apple, and the tools that you can hire are like $30 kilograms of tools in this big flight box that you get. And you hire them for, the article I read said it was €59 per week, but you have to put a deposit down of $1,200, which is held for security. So if you don't return the tools, they have the right to take that money away, basically. So again, not cheap to be able to do this yourself. And then the other element of that is it's always been expensive to replace, say, screens, especially in Apple devices. They're so heavily built into the device, and same with the backs of these phones as well. A lot of the times, the backs of the phones are attached to a lot of circuitry and things like that. So it's not just a case of replacing the glass on the back; it's sometimes the entire back of the phone, which includes some components. But the article quoted that to get a screen part to repair that for a phone, I don't think it actually mentioned which phone it was. It would cost €324, or you can go into the Apple repair shop and get it fixed for €339. So for $16 or $15 more, €15 more, you could just go direct to Apple. Which I'm looking at that and thinking they've definitely done that on purpose, and they don't want you to do this yourself, and so they're making it almost prohibitively expensive to do this yourself, especially if it costs €59 a week to hire the actual tools and stuff you need to fix it, on top of the €324. That's already way more expensive than just going to the Apple store to fix it themselves.
I guess it very much depends on whether or not Apple are doing that repair at a loss.
Yeah,
because if they're charging, slightly more than it costs to buy the part, but they're losing out on the labor costs, etc. But in order to make sure that everything's kind of in the right place and controlled, then I guess it makes no difference. If they can prove that those parts should be considerably cheaper,
then
that does feel dirty, and I would agree. So I'm kind of mixed on this one, as you might expect. I've always found Apple's sort of service when it comes to kind of repairing and dealing with damaged devices to be very, very good. And I've never ended up having to pay. I've never paid to have anything repaired when I've had things broken. Now, I haven't had any accidental damage like dropping a phone that hasn't been covered by a plan. But, where things have gone wrong that shouldn't have gone wrong, they fixed it. Should you be able to take it anywhere? Yes. I guess a bit like cars and the conversation earlier. If I want a VW exhaust, I will pay way more than if I want a third-party exhaust that fits a VW.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the difference here, isn't it? Do you want your screen replacement to be Apple quality, and therefore you pay the Apple price, or do you want the cheaper alternative, which looks the same, functions the same, but perhaps isn't as toughened glass or isn't as well made or whatever?
Yeah.
I guess that's a decision that you as the consumer make, isn't it, as to what you want to do with it. And I would completely understand most people going, no, I want the cheaper one because the screen's a screen. As long as it works and looks the same, I don't care. And I'd probably say I'd be the same. If it was just, change the glass for a piece of glass that works and I don't notice the difference, really, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
The specialist tools thing, I find that hard to get aggravated about because I think ultimately you are hiring expensive tooling.
Well, let me show you really quickly what that looks like as well. Two massive Pelican cases.
Exactly. I mean, there's going to be, and I know that there's some very specialist equipment. I had an old iMac repaired, and just taking the screen off required quite a lot of gadgets to get the screen off and on again, and all done dust free and all that kind of good stuff. So I don't have such a problem with them charging security deposits for this stuff, because if it just goes missing, then I imagine there's probably more than £1,200 worth of gear in there as well. That security deposit is just designed to give them some level of protection. And it'd be the same anyway. If you went and hired expensive equipment from, a DIY place, like some sort of ground stamper or some sort of specialist device to do a job, you are going to pay the same. So that's pretty standard practice.
I think the argument in this article in particular, this is from ifixit again, who've obviously got a stake in this game too.
Yeah.
This image that I brought up on screen shows the ifixit box, the ifixit recommended tools for fixing Apple devices compared to the flight cases, and apparently can achieve the same thing. Which is much smaller, again, much is cardboard box.
That depends, doesn't it? And this is the difference, isn't it? Like I can take a hammer and some wood and build a shed, but but it won't be as good or as well put together as a shed that comes out of something that's been properly machined for consistency. And this is the difference, isn't it? The devices that they're shipping you, in those crates presumably aren't just floating around in loads of foam. You take it out of there, they're going to be sizable gadgets and devices that are designed to do this in a very precise way. I completely accept that I can take the screen off with a screwdriver and some tweezers and do it at my own desk, but it's not going to be the controlled environment.
Yeah, but I think that's the issue with this.
I guess the repair tools would do.
This is aimed at a commercial way of fixing devices, so this is probably more likely to be sold to shops that we need to do.
Yeah, it's for businesses. It's not meant to be something that you or I buy and have at home for that one time our phone breaks.
Which is why
is for people who are using it to make a bit to run a business. So I get that cost.
Which is why I think ifixit have a particular issue with this, is that it's not consumer friendly. It's kind of business friendly. Which is they're always thinking more, I think, about the consumer rather than the shops to be able to fix these themselves. But
I come back to the argument of building a shed. Like if I want to build one at home once, I'll do it with DIY hand tools that I might use a handsaw, I might use a Ryobi power drill or whatever. Whereas if I'm a professional who does sheds every day, I'm going to rock up with table saws, miter saws, the best power drills and tools because I'm doing it all the time. So I think in this example, if you're running a business where you're fixing iPhones for a living, you're probably going to be able to or expect to pay the price for Apple's best gadgets. Because I would imagine as well, and I don't know this for a fact, I would assume that Apple's approved gadgets will probably do it quicker and in a less risky way than the ifixit tools. Whereas, look at the pictures there for those who aren't watching along there. They look like, industrial hardware. Whereas the toolkit from ifixit is going to be something far smaller, going to get the job done, but you're probably not going to want to do 10 or 15 of them a day, are you? You're going to do it once.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the difference, I think. It's those who are doing it for a business versus those that are doing it as a one-off repair or want the ability to repair. I don't think that the tooling bit is not so much a problem for me. Those are not the sort of things you'd have on your desk at home, are they? You want to store. Those are bought for a specific purpose. Whereas I think the parts piece is perhaps more egregious, like the overinflating the cost of the parts, so that you can't repair it yourself. I think that's wrong. I think I should pay whatever the cost of that glass meaningfully is. Okay, company's going to want to make a profit. Fine, everyone makes a profit. But if it's inflated to the degrees that you're saying it is potentially, in order to get you to bring it in, I don't think that's quite right to me.
Yeah, I think
I'm kind of split on this one. The specialist tools, I think, absolutely justified. The cost of the parts and how difficult they are to repair. The difficulty thing, that's really tricky, isn't it? Because these are complicated devices.
Yeah.
So how simple can you make them while retaining all of the innovation and the advancements that all of these devices need to have? So that the complexity is what it is. But I do think they could be made easy to access and get into. And I've seen that argument even in cheap technology. I watch a guy called My Mate Vince on YouTube, and he does a lot of repair stuff. And he's done MacBooks in the past, and that's very complicated and with mixed success and Nintendo Switches and stuff. But it'll also pop open cheap consumer gadgets that are, kind of budget-friendly gadgets. And the issue with some of those often is that they're not even designed to be repaired. They're so cheap they're meant to be thrown away, which I don't like. So there isn't actually a meaningful way to open some of these devices up without breaking like plastic clips, because they're not meant to be opened. Whereas at least high-end technology or gadgets, and I watch a lot of console repairs and things like that, can be unscrewed and taken apart and put back together. That's they're designed to be repairable. So I don't know whether that's what you wanted out of me as a reaction.
No,
I'm mixed.
That's it's better than I expected, to be honest. I thought you'd be all over the side of Apple.
Take it back to Apple.
I
mean, I'll be honest. That would be my default response. Would be take it in and get an assessment. If they turn around and told me, so I think we mentioned my AirPods Pro last week. Had they asked me on the spot for £175 to fix them, I'd have said, "No, you're all right."
Yeah,
and I probably would have just called that down, that headset, and moved on to something else and sold them for parts, because I wouldn't have paid it, because that's nearly the cost of a brand new pair.
Yeah.
So I'd have just gone, well, no, I'll buy new ones. Why would I repair that? Which is not great either. So I completely get the cost of repairing things, especially when you go back to official sellers, is expensive.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I'm a little conflicted as well about the tooling, but I just feel like this the tools themselves is I think might be a bit overkill or inflated in terms of the need for the tools for most repairs. Probably you don't. I can't imagine you need all of those tools for very minor repairs.
It depends, doesn't it, on the complexity of taking these things apart. I do, having been a keen DIYer, I have definitely overbought on tools and tooling to do. I've over-egged a job and paid silly money for a tool that I could probably have done with a tool that was a fraction of the cost, but in my head, I'm going to get a better outcome if I buy the more expensive, fancy tool. And I don't think it's a unique thing to Apple. This is consistent with in all areas of DIY versus kind of anyone who makes things for a living or fixes things for a living. I think will have fancier and more sophisticated equipment over time as their capabilities increase. But
I mean, the thing that makes me skeptical of them, and I feel like they might just be purposely trying to make it difficult for people to repair themselves, so that they go into the shop, is the parts piece, and that's definitely an inflated price. I've seen deep dives on the price of phone components, and it's nowhere near the price that they're quoting for the device itself, for the actual screen part itself. So they're definitely doing that on purpose to stop people wanting to be able to do it themselves at home and forcing them to go into the shop, which is why I think they're making it awkward with the tools as well. They could definitely make that easier, that whole process. They can make it easier. I know it's complicated tools, and for certain scenarios you will need them, but they can make that whole process much easier and have like a consumer-friendly version and then a business-friendly version, where you might get more advanced tools for more advanced fixes as part of the business, or you might have tinkerers tools that you would have available for people who want to fix.
Who are they helping there? So from a pure business perspective, if they say, yeah, okay, iFixit, we're going to give you all the stuff you need to make the best tools to fix Apple devices for consumers, then iFixit makes some profit and they sell some nice tools. Apple don't get anything out of that arrangement. Equally, do you want to walk into an Apple store and see an Apple branded fix-it-yourself toolkit, which instantly implies, you're going to need to fix this device? It doesn't look great, does it, from a kind of brand perspective? They want people to believe their devices never break and never go wrong. That's what they want you to do. They don't want you going in and going, oh, while I'm here, would you like to buy a fix-it kit with your new iPhone, Mr. Robbie? And you'd be like, yes, I would love to buy some screwdrivers with my phone.
They would lean on
that's what I mean. They're like, but then if you think about consumer grade, then it's got to be sold in a store, because there aren't that many people, to be honest, that are going to sit down and fix these things. Yeah. There are enthusiasts, and I think perhaps because of the world we operate in, from a tech perspective, we're perhaps more used to, or maybe we expect it because we surround ourselves with people who might give it a go. I can give you examples of things I have taken apart and fixed in the years. But I think there's a lot of people who wouldn't even dare to take a phone apart because of how complicated they are. I'll be honest, I probably wouldn't for most problems.
Yeah.
Maybe something that I deem simple, I might have a go at. I'll give you an example. My other half years ago had a Nintendo DS Lite. We still got it. And they had a common problem where after so much use, the shoulder buttons, especially the right shoulder button, I think it was, would basically crack, break, become damaged over use. And the only way to change it out was to do a whole case swap, because it was kind of integrated into the case. And that sounds dead simple, but there were some very small components you had to fiddle around with to take that entire device apart and recase it. And I thoroughly enjoyed doing it, to be honest. But there'd be a lot of people who just go, no, that's dead.
Yeah.
Won't bother. Or I'll go and buy a new one. So I guess it's also that, isn't it? It's like, what is the value? What is the audience like that wants that ability?
Yeah. There's also,
it must be noisy enough because you're hearing about it. But I also wonder, is that because iFixit? It serves iFixit to be able to. And I love their kit, by the way. I've used it loads to take various gadgets and stuff apart over the last few months since I've owned it. But
there's also an underlying kind of e-wastage argument in all of this as well, that iFixit always use that you'd rather repair it than replace it. It is, and actually, I do have the final story we can dive into, but there are stats in the final story that.
I'll just say though, I sort of agree, and I do get that whole fix fast rather than throw away, because I do think we are too quick to throw things away.
Yeah.
So I prefer the kind of recycle. I like the idea, like the trade-ins and stuff like that. Think about how many people you know in your social circle who walk around with damaged phones. I'm not going to say iPhone because it's not always iPhone, but that have got. I mean, I've got friends that when I see that they've got a cracked screen, and I'm like, oh God, would you not get that fixed? And they're like, oh no, got a screen protector on it, don't care. I'm like, really? I couldn't do that. Like if I looked at my phone every day and it was cracked and smashed, I'd want to get that sorted. And I appreciate it. There's also implications to that, and it's probably the cost that stops them.
Yeah.
But it does make me wonder like how bothered people are, or how much they would attempt it. I suppose if it was easier to swap the screen out, maybe they would. So that maybe is an argument for making it more repairable. Maybe you would change your own screen if you could.
Yeah.
But then
if you could just go to your local shop instead of forking up a ton to go to Apple.
You can take a phone to a local shop though. You can take an iPhone and have it the screen done at third-party stores, but it's still not cheap. You're still paying someone for their skills and their time. So you're still probably looking at a couple £100 with the screen cost on top, and for a lot of people they just won't pay that.
Yeah,
because they probably didn't pay that
people
for the
like
phone
that as well.
Head. They're paying it as part of a contract.
I know people like that as well, and a lot of their mentality around fixing it is that if I fix it, it'll break again. And then I'll just be in a permanent cycle of just breaking my screen and getting it fixed. So I'll just leave it broken because I'm.
Yeah, and then I'll wait till I upgrade.
Yeah,
but this is the thing is that a lot of people don't buy their phones outright. I mean, I don't. I buy them on. I tend to buy mine on the 24-month interest-free rolling plans, just because it's easier to spread the cost. But if you're doing that as part of your mobile phone provider as well, like your bikes, I buy mine directly with Apple, but others will go through, Three or whoever their mobile provider is. A lot of people just consider that a monthly cost to bear for mobile phone connectivity, and they will upgrade every couple of years when they're able. And so the idea of they might be spending £50 to £60 a month on their mobile phone and contract, a £200 repair bill is like, well, that's 4 months worth of payments for my phone. It's almost like a different mentality, isn't it? Whereas with other things that you might buy and pay outright, when you spend several £1,000s on something, like £100 to fix it doesn't feel quite such a huge cost. Whereas for something you're only paying £50 a month for, you're like, well, I'm not paying £200 to fix that thing or £300 to fix that thing.
Yeah,
especially with the screen cost you were quoting, €339 to repair the screen. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of monthly payments potentially that you're forking out. And like you said, I'll just wait 6 months and then I'll get my new one anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe there's a mentality thing there as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. That probably does not incentivize people to get things fixed. I
know we're running sort of tight on time, but I'm just conscious your next topic is a really interesting one and a kind of perhaps one of the biggest arguments against smartphones in general.
Yeah.
But I know you'll smash me over the head with the Apple one here. But do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we talked a little bit about it there in terms of phones should be easier to fix, and that would help users to be able to get longevity out of their devices. And so the final story that I've got is the EU will soon start making phone manufacturers have user swappable batteries. Back in the days, you used to have like the Nokia device, pop off the plastic back and start to swap out batteries. I knew people as well who had like spare batteries with them. They charged two, so that when they ran out of battery, they could just swap it out. I mean, back then the batteries did last a long time. That's common practice
with lots of other electronic gadgets, isn't it? You think about
like cameras and
DSLR, or you would never walk around with just the battery that's in there. You'd always have one or two spares.
Yeah, absolutely. So
serious about the use of it.
The EU doing their thing again, pressuring mobile phone manufacturers to change the way that they do things for the better, I suppose. It's definitely from the consumer side, but I know they give tech companies a hard time. The amount of fines and things like that have been given by the EU to tech companies over the last few years is wild. But also they are also the ones who are responsible for pressuring Apple to switch to Type-C as well, making it mandatory that all common mobile phone manufacturers must use Type-C as a standard connector, and now forcing smartphone makers to make user-swappable batteries. And I know these devices are incredibly complicated and well put together and quite solid, and there's things like the water resistance rating and dust resistance rating that can feed into this potential thing as an issue. But pressurizing companies to
this is it.
Be able to fix
on first glance, you'd say use swappable batteries. Yeah, hell yeah, I want that because we all know that, a couple of years into any mobile phone life now, it's not just Apple or any mobile phone, the battery is the first thing that starts to go, and it's the thing that you then get the most frustrated about. The problem, as you say, then is what is the compromise going to look like in terms of the quality and the functionality of your device? So you touched on the waterproof thing. That's a massive problem.
Yeah.
But more than anything, just the engineering of the device. Now, I know that not everyone will care about this, but we touched on it last episode when we talked about the iPhone 15 and the titanium device and the fact that I'm using it caseless at the moment, blah, blah, blah. But the feel and the sort of the premium nature of the device would be heavily compromised, presumably, by having to be in some way capable of being opened up. And it would presumably also compromise the internal layout and design of the phone and how the parts are all put together. So does it mean then we're going to end up going backwards and phones are going to have to get a bit chunkier and a bit bulkier in order to make them comply with this?
Or the batteries get smaller,
one, isn't it?
As well as the other thing, to be able
the batteries get smaller because you can just swap them out. Yeah, why give you a big one?
Well, just change that, but also to be able to open up the device and get out the battery, you have to have some space around it to be able to get it in and out.
Well, there has to be I mean, if you think about the old phones and even any device that uses AA batteries right now, or AAA or whatever, they have effectively a battery compartment, don't they? Which enables you to do that easily without interfering with the core device itself. Whereas if you open up a phone or a Nintendo Switch or whatever, that battery is heavily integrated into the overall layout of that device and may actually have overlapping components, things around it that make that hard to access. Even things like heat shields and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's a massive implications to be able to swap these things out and just take them out the back, and it won't just affect Apple; it'll affect all manufacturers because although others may be more repairable, none of them, as far as I'm aware, the big ones have interchangeable batteries.
No,
not sort of the Googles, the Samsungs, the Apples of the world. There might be some obscure manufacturers who do.
Every manufacturer is going to be suffering from this one, and it's certainly an engineering challenge. I'm actually quite curious to see the mechanisms that they come up with to solve this. I don't know if you've seen the Framework laptop. I don't know if you've seen that before.
No,
but it's the idea of having all the ports that you have around your laptop, like the USB and the HDMI, things like that. All of those are swappable components, so you can take out a big block from the back of it and then swap it out for like a different USB or a HDMI. And they've even done things like swapping out graphics cards at the back of they're all kind of hot swappable things that you can just drop out at a push of a button and just like plug it back in. I can imagine something like that would be quite cool as an implementation of hot swappable batteries for phones. But yeah, quite cool. I'm excited in the sense that it would be cool to see how they tackle it. But I know it's going to be a massive pain for the manufacturers and could potentially have a negative effect on the devices that they sell as well.
Yeah. It's that kind of to go back to the conversation we had earlier. It's going to impact the innovation and the design in order to achieve that interoperability, isn't it? And it won't affect everyone. I mean, there'll be a lot of people, and I think I can see some stats in your notes around people's sort of surveyed preferences here, but there will also be a lot of people that would find that really frustrating who actually don't get to a point with their phone. I mean, you're in this position at the moment where I know you're getting itchy over the 15 because you're in a scheme which allows you to swap.
Yeah.
So you're not going to reach a point with your phone where that battery is going to probably get to the point where you need to change it because you're likely to upgrade sooner. And not everyone is going to upgrade like you do, but there will be a lot of people who do. I've tried to go sort of 3-year cycles with my phones in the last couple of cycles.
Yeah.
And the third year has always been the tougher year where the phone battery is getting more and more problematic. And it's always nice then when I upgrade because it lasts for that much longer.
Yeah.
I get a full day out of it and I forget the whole charging problem exists and I don't have to carry batteries anymore and then it starts to go back the other way. But I don't know.
Yeah, these are the stats that motivated the decision from the EU. The European Commission did a study last year where 77% of EU citizens would rather repair their devices than replace them. And in addition, 79% think that manufacturers should make their digital devices easier to repair with better access to individual parts.
Do you know what? I mean, I'm kind of in two camps here. I think with the battery problem, I'm not sure I'm that bothered about swappable batteries because actually for what a battery probably is going to cost me from a manufacturer, I can buy a third-party battery, external battery pack, which will charge many devices.
Yeah.
I've got one now that costs me £30 and it will charge my phone 2 or 3 times, it will charge an iPad, and still have juice left to charge. So, like, the convenience of having multiple devices charge off one battery versus having to buy a spare battery for all of my devices, I'm not sure I'm that bothered. But the repair piece I'm with you on, and I have done that with admittedly more retro devices in recent years. I've fixed things, like gaming devices and hardware that are easy for someone like me to fix. They don't require super specialist skills or knowledge. But I've taken those devices apart and I've repaired them, resoldered wires, changed components, and I've thoroughly enjoyed doing that. There's actually something quite nice about restoring these old devices.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'd be brave enough to tuck into my modern tech.
Yeah.
Certainly not while they're in warranty. But, the old stuff, pulling apart a controller or most recently I had to repair a pedal on a Guitar Hero drum kit. It's a fairly simple cable soldering challenge, but stuff like that is actually quite enjoyable if you're into that sort of scene.
So this is aimed right at you, JC.
Well, no, I maybe. I don't know that I would be as brave as to pull my phone apart unless I absolutely had to. But
or if you had the guides from ifixit to coach you through it step by step.
If it was a matter of I can fix it for £100 or give it to somebody else for 3 or 4, I would probably have a go. I'd be comfortable and confident enough to try it. It would always be about what you're comfortable with ultimately, isn't it? And what you feel confident in being able to tackle. I'd watch those teardowns and I'd work it out, and then I'd go, that's not for me. That looks too complicated. Or, no, I could do that. I'll give it a whirl.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Fair. So, well, it seems like you're actually on side of the right repair movement, broadly speaking. But
I'm not sure what you were expecting.
Yeah, well, I don't know. As I was writing the notes, I was like, oh, Apple's mentioned here, maybe he'll have a stance of why should people feel the need to repair themselves? They should just go to the shops.
No, absolutely not. No, I think if you've got the willingness and the skills, I think you should be able to do it.
Yeah, I agree.
I equally don't have a problem with the suppliers. The tooling thing, I have no beef with, but I absolutely agree on the repair thing. If you should be able to buy the parts either third party or first party. I think you should also have that choice.
Yeah.
So if I want to buy an Apple screen and they're going to charge me 200, but I can buy a third party for 100, that's my decision as to whether I want to run the risk or take the quality compromise.
Yeah.
But again, we all make those decisions all the time, don't we? When we fix our washing machines or buy new ones, or where we fix our cars, we make those decisions all the time.
Yeah.
We should have that freedom.
Absolutely.
Freedom.
You're quoting Braveheart now. Okay. Well, I think that's all we had for this episode. We'll leave it there. Quite an interesting topic to dive into. So thanks for hanging out with us, and don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube and all good podcasting services, so you don't miss an episode there as well. And we'll see you next time.